The test subject. Dr. Zerix adjusted her optical sensors as she reviewed the application file floating before her. The holographic display showed what had to be some sort of clerical error. A human had volunteered for the Galactic Military's Advanced Weapons Testing Initiative. This must be a mistake, she chittered to her research partner, Dr. Krav, whose crystalline form sparkled with amusement. Their bone density alone disqualifies them from handling even our basic prototype series. The research facility's massive testing chamber, usually filled with the galaxy's most physically impressive species, now held just one small figure. Sarah Chen stood at attention, her 5'7" frame looking absurdly diminutive against the chamber's reinforced walls. Candidate Chen, Dr. Zyrix's translator, conveyed her clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. Are you aware that our lightest prototype weighs more than twice your body mass? Yes, Doctor, Sarah replied, her voice steady. I reviewed all specifications before volunteering. Dr. Krav's crystalline structure vibrated in what passed for laughter among his species. Perhaps we should start with something from the civilian series. We wouldn't want to explain to Earth's ambassadors why their volunteer was crushed under a weapon they couldn't possibly lift. Sarah remained silent, but her eyes tracked every movement as the facility's automated systems brought forth the testing rack. Dozens of weapons, each more imposing than the last, lined the wall. They ranged from elegant plasma rifles to massive siege cannons that typically required powered exoskeletons to operate. We'll begin with the Mark III pulse rifle, Dr. Zerix announced, selecting what she considered a suitably basic weapon. It's designed for Thoraxian troops, so the weight should be manageable with proper support systems. The weapon floated down on its anti-gravity cradle. At 100 kilograms, it was indeed one of their lighter models. Sarah stepped forward, examined the rifle's control interface, and reached for it. Wait, Dr. Krav called out. The support harness needs to be configured first. But Sarah had already lifted the rifle clear of its cradle. Her movements were smooth, efficient, and most surprisingly, showed no signs of strain. She brought the weapon to her shoulder in a textbook firing position. The chamber fell silent. Dr. Zyrix's antennae twitched rapidly as she double-checked her instruments. They showed no malfunction in the gravity systems, no hidden support mechanisms. Impossible, Dr. Krav whispered, his crystalline form clouding with confusion. The neural interface alone should be too complex for their primitive nervous system. Sarah's fingers found the rifle's control surfaces with practiced ease. Permission to approach the targeting range, Doctor. Dr. Zerix could only nod, all four of her arms moving in unconscious agitation. The human walked to the firing line, each step precise and balanced despite carrying a weapon that should have made such movement impossible. The Mark III's recoil compensation is calibrated for thoracian musculature, Dr. Krav warned, his concern genuine now. Perhaps we should. The range came alive with plasma fire. Sarah put 3 shots into the center mass of each target, the rifle's massive recoil seemingly having no effect on her stance or accuracy. The weapon's neural interface, designed for the multiple brain structures of thoracian soldiers, appeared to be responding to her commands as if it had been custom-built for human use. When the last target fell, Sarah lowered the rifle and turned back to face the researchers. Will this be sufficient for initial qualification, or should I continue with the advanced target series? Dr. Zyrix's scientific mind raced through possibilities. The human showed no signs of cybernetic enhancement, no evidence of genetic modification, yet she had just accomplished what should have been physically impossible. Qualification. Dr. Krav's crystalline form had taken on a deep blue hue of intense interest. My dear, you've just rewritten our entire understanding of weapon system compatibility. The question is, what else can you do? Sarah's eyes moved to the testing rack, lingering on the larger weapons. I'd be happy to demonstrate, Doctor. After all, that's why I volunteered. Dr. Zerix felt her scientific skepticism warring with the evidence before her. She made a decision that would change the course of galactic military research forever. Bring out the Mark VII heavy cannon. Let's see what humanity is really capable of. As the massive weapon descended from its storage bay, she noticed something that sent her antennae rigid with shock. Sarah Chen was smiling. Breaking limits. The Mark 7 heavy cannon hung in its anti-gravity cradle like a sleeping giant. At 4 meters long and weighing just over 500 kilograms, it was designed for mechanized infantry units or dedicated weapons platforms. Even the facility's Krogath security team, renowned for their incredible strength, used powered assistance to handle it. This is highly irregular. Security Chief Vax rumbled from his observation post. His scaled hide shifted colors rapidly, reflecting his agitation. The Mark 7 has injured fully augmented soldiers during testing. We cannot risk. Noted, Chief. Dr. Zerix interrupted, her attention fixed on Sarah Chen's approach to the weapon. But after that display with the Mark 3, I believe standard protocols require revision. Sarah circled the massive cannon slowly, her eyes tracking every detail of its construction. The weapon's neural interface nodes glowed with a soft blue light, designed to link with multiple neural clusters across different species' anatomies. No human had ever attempted to interface with something this complex. The safety protocols are active, Dr. Krav assured everyone, his crystalline form still showing traces of concern. At the first sign of neural feedback or physical stress, the system will shut down. Sarah reached for the cannon's primary grip. The entire chamber held its breath. The weapon lifted clear of its cradle. Impossible, Chief Vax whispered, his scales now a pale shade of disbelief. But Sarah wasn't done. With fluid movements that defied everything the researchers knew about human physical capabilities, she brought the cannon to her shoulder and braced it. The neural interface flared to life, accepting her input as if she were one of the enhanced species it had been designed for. Motor control is stable, Dr. Zerix reported, her antennae twitching as she read the streaming data. Neural sync at 87%. That can't be right. Even our most compatible species only achieves 60% synchronization on first contact. The targeting systems are fully engaged, Dr. Krav added, his crystalline structure vibrating with excitement. She's achieved complete weapons integration in under 30 seconds. Sarah's voice remained steady, professional. Permission to commence firing test. Dr. Zerix glanced at the security chief, who had gone completely still, his scales locked in a pattern of shocked gray. Taking his silence as assent, she activated the heavy weapons range. Granted. Start with stationary targets at standard distance. The Mark 7 roared to life. Each shot should have generated enough recoil to knock down an unbraced Krogath warrior. Yet Sarah absorbed it, compensated, and fired again with mechanical precision. The targets, reinforced steel plates designed to withstand heavy weapons fire, developed glowing holes exactly where she aimed. Increasing target difficulty, Dr. Krav announced, unable to contain his scientific curiosity, adding movement patterns and variable ranges. The targets began to shift and weave, some approaching at high speed while others retreated into the depths of the range. Sarah tracked them all, the massive cannon moving in her hands with the ease of a standard infantry weapon. Every shot found its mark. This is beyond physical adaptation, Dr. Zerix muttered, reviewing the streaming data. The neural interface readings suggest she's not just controlling the weapon, she's optimizing its performance beyond design specifications. Indeed, the Mark 7's efficiency ratings were climbing steadily as Sarah fired. The weapon's internal systems were learning from her input patterns, adjusting their parameters in ways the research team had never seen before. Full combat simulation, Security Chief Vax suddenly ordered, his scales now showing the deep red of intense focus. Multiple hostile targets, maximum difficulty. The range transformed into a chaotic battle zone. Holographic enemies appeared from every angle, while defensive barriers and environmental hazards materialized to complicate targeting solutions. It was a scenario designed to challenge a full squad of enhanced soldiers. Sarah moved. The Mark 7 became an extension of her body as she navigated the complex battlefield. She rolled behind cover, emerged to take precisely aimed shots, and flowed through the combat space with an efficiency that made the watching security team mutter in disbelief. Look at the neural feedback patterns. Dr. Krav highlighted a particular data stream. She's not just adapting to the weapon systems, she's innovating new ways to use them. That firing pattern she just used, it's not in any of our combat databases. Dr. Zyrix's scientific mind raced with implications. The human nervous system. It's not simpler than ours at all, is it? It's just different, more adaptable, more creative in how it approaches problems. The simulation ended with a perfect score. Sarah lowered the cannon, her breathing only slightly elevated. Weapon performs excellently, Doctor. Though the thermal distribution could be more efficient if the secondary cooling matrix was realigned by about 3 degrees. The chamber fell silent again. She had just identified a design improvement that had eluded their weapons development team for 3 cycles. I believe, Dr. Zyrix said slowly, her antennae now rigid with excitement, we need to completely reassess our understanding of human capabilities, and perhaps, she glanced at the testing rack where their most advanced prototypes waited. It's time to see what humanity can really do with our technology. Security Chief Fax's scales had shifted to a new color, one that indicated deep respect. Indeed, though I suspect we should be equally interested in what their technology might do in our hands. After all, any species that can produce soldiers capable of this. He gestured at the still smoking targets, must have some interesting innovations of their own. Sarah smiled again, that same confident expression she'd shown earlier. Oh, you have no idea, Chief. No idea at all. The hidden truth. Explain this to me again, Grand Administrator Nexus demanded, his holographic form flickering with barely contained agitation. You're telling me that a single human, without any technological augmentation, has outperformed every enhanced species in our weapons testing program. Dr. Zyrix's antennae twitched as she organized her thoughts. The secure briefing chamber felt smaller than usual as she faced the assembled Galactic Military Command. 2 weeks of intensive testing had yielded results that defied conventional understanding. It's not just outperformance, Administrator, she explained, bringing up the neural mapping displays. What we're seeing is an entirely different approach to weapon integration. Look at these patterns. The holographic display filled with intricate webs of neural activity, recorded during Sarah's testing sessions. Beside them, similar readings from other species looked almost simplistic in comparison. Humans don't just adapt to the weapon systems, they innovate with them in real time. Their neural plasticity allows them to create new control pathways that we never anticipated. They don't just use the technology, they improve it through use. Dr. Krav's crystalline form sparkled as he added his observations. We've had to revise our entire understanding of what we considered primitive nervous systems. The human brain's ability to form new neural pathways and adapt to complex interfaces is unprecedented. In the testing chamber below, Sarah was working with their most advanced prototype yet, the XK-99 Variable Configuration Weapons Platform. The massive system was designed to transform between different combat roles, but its complexity had proven too much for even their most enhanced soldiers to handle effectively. Sarah had mastered it in under an hour. Watch this. Dr. Zyrix highlighted a particular sequence. Sarah moved through a complex combat simulation, the XK-99 shifting seamlessly between forms. Sniper rifle, close combat configuration, area denial system. Each transformation flowed naturally into the next, creating a fighting style that hadn't existed before she picked up the weapon. She's not following the design protocols for transformation sequences, Dr. Kraft noted. She's invented her own, more efficient patterns. The weapon's performance metrics have increased by 47% just from her optimization of its systems. The Grand Administrator's hologram leaned forward. And you're certain there's no technological assistance, no hidden augmentations. We've run every scan imaginable, Security Chief Vax confirmed, his scales showing the deep blue of certainty. What you're seeing is pure human capability. If anything, they'd been holding back in their previous interactions with the galactic community. A new hologram materialized, Admiral Kara's of military intelligence. His tentacles writhed with concern as he spoke. This information cannot leave this facility. The implications for our defense paradigms are too significant. If humans can adapt to and improve our most advanced weapons so easily. He left the thought unfinished, but everyone understood. The balance of power in the galaxy could shift dramatically if this capability became widely known. In the chamber below, Sarah had finished her testing session. The XK-99, a weapon that had frustrated the best soldiers in the galaxy, powered down smoothly under her touch. She had made it look easy. "There's more," Dr. Zerix added, bringing up a new data set. "We've been analyzing her suggestion about the thermal distribution system. Not only was she correct, but implementing her proposed changes has improved weapon efficiency across our entire advanced series by 23%. The Grand Administrator's hologram flickered as he processed this information. One human has advanced our weapons technology more in 2 weeks than our research teams have in the past cycle. Yes, Dr. Krav confirmed. And she keeps insisting that she's not even specially trained for this. She's just a standard volunteer from their defense force. The implications hung heavy in the air. If this was what an average human could do. The facility's alert system suddenly flared to life, bathing the briefing chamber in red light. Security Chief Vax's scales shifted to combat readiness as he received the incoming reports. "Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace," he announced, his voice grave. "Energy signatures match dark-scale mercenary vessels. They're on an attack vector." Dr. Zyrix's antennae went rigid. "Impossible. This facility's location is classified at the highest levels." "Was classified," Admiral Karras corrected, his tentacles now writhing in agitation. "We've had indications of a security breach in the outer sectors. They must have learned about our breakthrough." In the testing chamber below, Sarah looked up at the flashing alerts, then at the XK-99 beside her. A small smile crossed her face. The same expression she'd shown when first approaching the Mark 7. "Doctor," she called through the comm system, "request permission to implement live combat testing of prototype systems." The Grand Administrator's hologram straightened. "You want to defend a military research facility against a mercenary fleet with experimental weapons?" "No, sir," Sarah replied, her hand resting on the XK-99's control surface. "I want to show you what happens when humans really need to get creative." Under siege, the dark-scale mercenary fleet emerged from hyperspace like predators scenting blood. 7 warships, their hull configurations modified to mask their energy signatures, took up attack positions around the research facility. Their reputation preceded them. The Dark Scales were notorious for stealing advanced technology and selling it to the highest bidder. In the facility's command center, chaos erupted as systems began failing in sequence. "They're using some kind of targeted EMR pulse," Dr. Krav reported, his crystalline form clouded with concern. "Our automated defenses are being systematically disabled." Security Chief Vax's scales shifted through combat patterns as he assessed the situation. This was well planned. They knew exactly when to hit us. Half our security contingent is off station for routine rotation. Dr. Zerix watched as Sarah Chen strode purposefully through the testing chamber below, the XK-99 prototype slung across her back as if it weighed nothing. The human moved with the same efficient grace she'd shown during testing, but there was something different now, a focused intensity that made even the veteran security teams step aside. "The primary defense grid is down," one of the technicians announced. Boarding pods detected launching from multiple vessels. The Grand Administrator's hologram flickered with urgency. "We cannot allow the prototype weapons to fall into mercenary hands. Initiate self-destruct protocols." "Wait," Sarah's voice cut through the command channel. "Give me access to the facility's neural interface network." Dr. Zyrix's antennae twitched in confusion. The network isn't designed for combat applications. It's purely for weapons testing and data collection. Exactly, Sarah smiled. And I've spent 2 weeks learning exactly how it works. Understanding dawned in Dr. Krav's crystalline structure. The neural interfaces, they're still active throughout the facility, even with the defense grid down. I can link them together, Sarah confirmed. Create an improvised defense network using the testing systems themselves. But I'll need full access and help. The Grand Administrator's hologram turned to his technical staff. Can this work? Theoretically, Dr. Zurichs answered, her scientific mind racing ahead. But the processing load would be enormous. No single operator could possibly. You're still thinking like a galactic, Sarah interrupted, already moving toward the facility's central testing arena. Stop looking for why it shouldn't work. Start thinking about how we can make it work. The first explosions rocked the facility as boarding pods breached the outer hull. Alarms blared as internal sensors detected multiple intruder teams entering through the research levels. We're out of options, Security Chief Vax declared, his scales now a deep crimson of battle readiness. Give her access. All of it. Dr. Zyrix's fingers flew across the control surfaces, granting Sarah full administrative rights to the neural interface network. Through the monitoring systems, they watched as the human reached the central arena, a massive space usually used for testing their heaviest weapons platforms. Sarah placed the XK-99 into a central mounting cradle and began connecting neural interface nodes to her temples. Around her, every weapon in the facility's testing inventory hummed to life, their systems recognizing her signature from countless testing sessions. What I'm about to do, she announced calmly, might void several warranty agreements. The first wave of dark-scale mercenaries breached the arena level. They were the elite of their kind, cybernetically enhanced, heavily armed, and expecting to find a research facility in chaos. What they found instead was a human standing in the center of a weapon testing chamber, surrounded by the most advanced artillery in the galaxy. And all of it was online. Neural synchronization at 95% and climbing. Dr. Krav reported in disbelief. She's actually doing it. She's controlling multiple weapons platforms simultaneously. Through the facility's cameras, they watched in awe as Sarah orchestrated a defense that should have been impossible. The XK-99 served as her primary platform, but through the neural network, she commanded a symphony of destruction. Automated testing turrets tracked and engaged infiltrators with precision. Prototype shield generators activated in perfect sequence to protect critical systems. Look at these patterns. Dr. Zurichs highlighted the neural activity displays. She's not just controlling each system individually. She's created an integrated network. The weapons are coordinating with each other. A group of mercenaries attempted to flank through a maintenance corridor. They found themselves caught in a perfectly timed crossfire between 3 different weapon systems, each compensating for the other's firing patterns in ways their designers had never imagined. Multiple ships still in attack position. Security Chief Vax reported. They're charging weapons. Sarah's voice came through the comm, steady despite the strain of managing multiple combat systems. Dr. Zurichs, remember how you said the Mark 7's range was limited by atmospheric interference? Yes, but watch this. The massive cannon, linked into Sarah's improvised network, shifted its configuration. Power readings spiked as she channeled energy through the neural interface in ways the research team had never considered. The shot that emerged wasn't the standard plasma burst they designed. It was something new. The beam cut through space like a scalpel, slicing through the lead warship's shields as if they didn't exist. The vessel's power core destabilized immediately, forcing an emergency shutdown. How did you? Dr. Crab began. Human creativity, Sarah replied, already targeting the next ship. We don't just think outside the box. We take the box apart and build something better with the pieces. New alliance. The aftermath of the battle left the Galactic Military Command speechless. The research facility's central arena, normally pristine and organized, now told the story of humanity's true potential. Disabled mercenary weapons lay scattered across the floor, their owners secured in the facility's containment cells. Through the massive observation windows, the surviving dark-scale ships could be seen withdrawing under escort from galactic patrol cruisers. And in the center of it all stood Sarah Chen, calmly disconnecting herself from the neural interface network. Damage report, the Grand Administrator's hologram demanded. Minimal, Security Chief Fax replied, his scales showing a mixture of awe and respect. Some structural damage to the outer halls, but all prototype weapons are secure. More importantly, he brought up the battle analytics. We have combat data that's going to revolutionize our entire approach to weapons development. Dr. Zerix moved through the arena, her antennae twitching as she examined the modified weapons systems. The way you integrated these platforms, it shouldn't have been possible. The power requirements alone. You were limiting yourselves, Sarah explained, running a hand along the X-Key 99's still warm barrel. Each weapon was designed to be perfect at its specific task, but perfection can be rigid. Humans, we look for connections, for ways to make different systems work together. We don't see limitations, we see possibilities. Dr. Crab's crystalline form sparkled with excitement as he reviewed the combat logs. The modifications you made to the Mark 7's containment field, you turned its biggest weakness into an amplification system. And the way you networked the targeting computers to create predictive firing solutions, it's brilliant. More than brilliant, Admiral Karras interjected, his tentacles moving in complex patterns of deep thought. It's paradigm shifting. We've been approaching weapons development from completely the wrong direction. The Grand Administrator's hologram nodded slowly. Instead of designing weapons that require soldiers to adapt to them, we should be designing weapons that can adapt to their users, Sarah finished. Every species has unique strengths. The key isn't to force everyone to use equipment the same way. It's to create systems flexible enough to leverage those differences. Dr. Zerix felt her scientific worldview expanding with each new piece of data she examined. The neural interface readings from the battle showed patterns she'd never imagined possible. Your species, you've been underestimated by everyone, haven't you? Even yourselves, perhaps. Sarah smiled, not the confident expression from before, but something more thoughtful. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We adapt because we have to. We innovate because there's always a challenge we're not quite ready for. Every limitation becomes an opportunity to find a new solution. The Grand Administrator's hologram straightened with decision. I'm initiating a new directive, effective immediately. We're establishing a joint weapons development program. Human insight combined with galactic technology. Sir, one of his advisors protested, the security implications were demonstrated quite thoroughly today. The administrator cut him off. Would you rather have humans as partners or potential adversaries? Because after what we've seen here, I know which option I prefer. Security Chief Fax stepped forward, his scales now showing the deep green of formal ceremony. Ms. Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Security Council, I would like to officially offer you the position of Chief Integration Specialist for our new joint development program. Sarah raised an eyebrow. That's a very fancy title. It means, Dr. Zerix explained, her antennae quivering with excitement, that you'll help us rebuild our entire weapons program from the ground up. Teaching us to think, well, to think more like humans. And what makes you think I'm qualified for that? Dr. Crab gestured at the arena around them, where the evidence of human ingenuity was still smoking slightly. Because in one battle, you advanced our weapons technology by approximately 50 years. And you did it by ignoring everything we thought was impossible. Sarah looked around the facility, at the weapons she'd transformed, the systems she'd linked in ways their designers had never imagined, and the faces of aliens who were finally beginning to understand what humanity could offer to the galaxy. When do we start? The Grand Administrator's hologram smiled. We already have. Tell me, Ms. Chen, What do you know about quantum entanglement drives? Sarah's eyes lit up with that familiar spark of human curiosity, the drive to explore, to understand, to push beyond accepted limitations. Not much, yet, but I'm looking forward to finding out what's possible when we work together. As the research team began discussing their new direction, Dr. Zurichs made a final note in her research log. Today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic military technology. But more importantly, it marks humanity's true introduction to the galactic community. They're not just adapting to our technology anymore. They're helping us reimagine what's possible. And something tells me this is just the beginning.